My Lords, I too welcome this bill. I'm not a housing expert, but I've been motivated to speak in this debate due to the significant number of disabled people who've been in touch to express their serious concerns. I declare my interests. I'm president of the LGA, and when in London, I stay in a block of flats. And this debate has made me strongly consider my own personal safety. Like others in your Lordship's chamber, I've received many emails about the costs of remedial work and the impact on people's lives. What has become apparent is that many disabled people have become marooned in their flats, which they bought like others in good faith. My Lords, disabled people spend enormous amounts of time thinking about accessing and egressing accommodation. They have to take into account whether there's a fire lift or the lift gets turned off in an emergency. They have to think about evacuation procedures such as is it safer to remain in their flat or whether to leave, whether there's a refuge or a place of safety. These are quite different things. And whether to choose to use an evac chair or an evacuation sledge. It's a difficult choice, as the latter two means for me giving up my only means of mobility, and it's not like stepping out of a pair of shoes. I know from personal experience finding accessible accommodation, which is also affordable, vaguely near where you want to live, is incredibly difficult, and then you can become tied into it. Any disabled residents living in a flat under the Regulatory Reform Fire Safety Order 2005 have been entitled to have a suitable and sufficient fire risk assessment. But one disabled resident who got in touch with me told me the initial advice was to stay in their flat in the case of emergency, that when they sought independent advice, they were told to leave, because for the particular block of flats they lived in, if they were there for more than 20 minutes, their chance of survival was severely reduced. In a recent article in the Disability News Service, it stated that the government have awarded to CS Todd Associates the contract to produce new fire safety guidance. The same consultant stated in 2011 that it was usually unrealistic to expect landlords to put in place arrangements for disabled people to evacuate blocks of flats in the case of emergency. They also wrote the LGA guidance, which had to be withdrawn, and the British Standard, which also had to be withdrawn. My Lords, I'm also very concerned by comments that have been sent to me by a member of the Fire Safety Forum, and apologies if those comments have been taken slightly out of context, but they do need interrogating. A member of that forum wrote, and I quote, "What fun we will have watching YouTube videos of the poor disabled people crawling on their hands and knees down smoke-filled corridors when the common parts of the fire alarm system operates to tell them to get out into the corridors because there's smoke in there. It all promotes equality, because the able-bodied people will have to go on their hands and knees too when the smoke layer gets too low, rather than staying in the safety of their flats." End quote. I'm happy to share the links with the Minister and his team. The name alongside those comments is Colin Todd. Even if the word unrealistic has been misunderstood or poorly defined, because I do recognise the complication of providing a plan in what can be difficult and changing circumstances, it does feel that disabled people are being told they should not get in anyone else's way and they don't have a chance of evacuating a building. Now, I understand the Minister has responded to the request to look into this and said that the contract was awarded according to the correct procedure. I learned this afternoon that a letter has been sent on behalf of some disabled residents to the Home Office asking that the award of this contract be rescinded. But on researching for this debate, I was reminded that many years ago I was on a plane, and please bear with me, I was going to an athletics competition. Without anyone ever telling me, I always knew the chance of me getting off a plane in an emergency was virtually zero. That's why I taught my daughter from the point she could understand, probably about 18 months old, that if we were ever in a situation, she had to get herself off the plane. So on this particular trip, I'd given up my day chair, was at the seat right at the back with the other athletes, and a member of the cabin crew came to me and told me that if the plane went down, not only was I not going to get off, that I should not get in other people's way, and furthermore, no one from the crew, whatever the circumstances, was going to come back and help me off. This is how disabled people feel in these circumstances. I can't begin to imagine what anyone went through on the 14th of June 2017. And I'd like to thank the noble lady Baroness Sanderson of Welton for her incredibly moving speech. But as reported by Disability Rights UK on the 31st of March 2021 on the evidence sessions, 15 of the 37 disabled residents of the Grenfell Tower died in the fire that killed 72 people. That means that 40% of the disabled people who lived in the tower died. So, I'd like to ask the Noble Lord the Minister, can he understand why disabled people are so angry? And isn't it reasonable that a disabled person should have a plan and have at least a chance of getting out of a building in an emergency? When will Her Majesty's Government be releasing the outcome of the consultation on personal emergency evacuation plans that closed on the 19th of July last year? And finally, will the Minister offer his reassurance that he will do everything possible to protect disabled people through this bill, as at the moment there is little reference to them?
Hear, hear.